Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. And today we're diving into a tool most people have never heard of, but every criminal defense attorney knows can be a game changer. So basically, this is something that's not widely known to you, but it's a tool that most defense attorneys know is a game changer. However, it is rarely used. Now, the motion to preclude grand jury action. Now, what does that even mean? In plain English, it's a legal mechanism to stop grand jury from moving forward with an indictment before it ever happens. Essentially, it's a way to say, not so fast. There are serious legal problems here that need to be addressed before charges are formally brought. Now, this is a tool that I should have used. However, I didn't, but it's in my repertoire, in my playbook, or as the young folks say, I got it in my bag. Anyway, why does this matter? Because grand jury is a powerful tool in the prosecution's arsenal. Because here's the great part about it, because I learned this early. A prosecutor, if they want, they have the ability to prosecute or get a grand jury indictment against a paperclip if they choose to do so. And what I love about it is the thing that's called a true bill. And them getting that true bill shows you how strong their case is. Because even with myself, it took them 7 total tries before they got a true bill. Which means it took them 7 times to go get 15 people to agree that what they were presenting was something that they could prosecute. Now, it decides rather formal charges, often based on evidence that the public and even the defendant doesn't even see. So basically, it's that behind the scenes stuff, and yet court give prosecutor enormous latitude to present evidence. Excuse me. Hold on, one more. Got one more. Excuse me. Goodness. So, if there's misconduct, abuse, or constitutional violators, waiting until after an indictment to fight it can be much harder. So, if you catch it before it starts, and a lot of times they try to keep it, or they'll even refer to it as a secret indictment because this tool is so powerful. Now, that's why the motion to preclude grand jury action comes in. It allows the defense to challenge the process before it ever begins. Think of it as a preemptive strike in the legal battlefield. This is actually like setting the pawns up so you can have the other opponent's king in jeopardy before the game starts. Now, I want to be clear. These motions aren't easy to win. Just keep that in mind. A lot of times you don't play this card to win immediately. However, it's effective, which is why the prosecutor attempts to hide it in most cases. Now, courts historically grant them in a very small fraction of cases, roughly 10 to 15%. But when they do, the impact is massive. Charges can be delayed, evidence can be suppressed, and sometimes the prosecution is forced to reconsider whether to pursue the case at all. In other words, it can completely change the trajectory of the case. And this is also one of those things where I speak about it can be that thing that becomes greater than you ever thought it could be. And throughout this video, I'm going to talk about the breakdown, exactly how these motions work, when you should use them, and why. Even if the odds are tough, following one can give you a strategic advantage. Because everything I tell you guys, I'm doing this I work your case as if it's mine, and I do it to win. No one gets up to be a loser. So keep that in mind. Now, if you or someone you know is facing potential indictment, notice the words potential, they haven't been indicted yet. Understanding this tool isn't just academic. It's potentially the difference between freedom and facing serious criminal charges. A lot of times this is used on felonious cases or cases where there's some sort of corporate espionage. Now, so stick around because by the end, you'll know, goodness, things getting crazy today. What's going on with me? But yeah, you'll know exactly how to use this and how to recognize situations where the motion to preclude grand jury action could be your most powerful early defense weapon. Now, what is exactly a motion to procure a grand jury action? It is a formal request filed by a criminal defense attorney, or you, asking the court to prevent the grand jury from hearing certain evidence or even proceeding with an indictment. Essentially, you are arguing that the grand jury process is tainted or inappropriate in the specific circumstances of the case. It can be used to challenge procedural violations if evidence was obtained illegally through a faulty search or in violation of the defendant's constitutional rights, which is going to be the greatest grounds in most cases because, again, I talk about it and I've shown you and I've illustrated and I've shown cases. Police don't know how to do their job properly because they don't know what the job is that they're doing, right? Now, jurisdictional issues. If the court does not have authority over the alleged crime or over the defendant. Now, I did the class. I'm doing a couple more videos where I speak about the jurisdictional challenges. These are, again, things I spoke about. The jurisdictional challenge can even be brought up on appeal or even habeas corpus. These are always at play. We can also go into abusive process. If the grand jury is being used for improper purposes like harassment, political motivation, or as leverage in unrelated civil matters, these are the things that they'll do just to slow you down. And overly broad or misleading evidence in their presentment. To present this evidence that is irrelevant, prejudicial, or cumulative from being shown is one of your greatest tools within this weapon. And I do mean it in that kind of, I wrote it down differently, but I mean it in that kind of verse situation because this is one of the tools where you're preventing them from doing something, or how I love to say it, having them stay focused. Making sure what they're doing is up to par. And doing this is staying within the process and guidelines is what you are making them do. And you weaponize a motion. This is why you weaponize a motion, not emotion. So understand that. So now how does it work? You file the motion pre-indictment. Usually it's filed prior to the grand jury being convened or before an indictment is issued. So even while the grand jury is deliberating, you can present this and stop the indictment. In some jurisdictions, the motion can challenge a pending indictment seeking a dismissal. These, again, you have several different ways that you can go with this one motion. Now, here's the great part about it. The grounds for the motion: constitutional violation, Fourth Amendment illegal search and seizure, Fifth Amendment self-incrimination, faulty confessions. Because remember, the interrogation is designed to coerce. prosecutorial misconduct in presenting evidence or instructing the grand jury. These are always afoot. Procedural defects, improper venue, misrepresentation of law to the grand jury. Because again, I've shown you, I've spoken about it, and I'm going to continue showing you. Most of these people that are doing this have no idea what it is because they don't understand the level of procedural accuracy that is needed in getting these things done. Now, the court may schedule a hearing where defense counsel presents arguments why the grand jury should be barred from acting. Now, the whole thing is, let me get some water real quick. Is to make sure that the prosecution is putting together a case that is lawful. And if it's not, it's to stop the harassment early. Stop the inconvenience early, because it can get more costly if there is an indictment. These are the things, I hate to see it like those, explain it that way, but most people wait till they're, already jumping off a ship before they decide to go ask for help. And this way, it keeps you on the ship and keep you partying. Unless it's a Carnival cruise line, but then that's a whole nother thing. I shouldn't even done that, but that's funny to me anyway. Prosecutors respond, defending their process and evidence presentation. It becomes a motion hearing, not a grand jury and convene. So you keep that in mind because, again, it becomes another tool in the adversarial system. Now, the court ruling, the judge can either grant the motion, stopping the grand jury, or deny it, allowing the grand jury to proceed. And if granted, the indictment process is precluded and the case may need to be restructured. If evidence is suppressed or the charges are dropped, you either have to wait for the prosecution to get new evidence or you are free and clear. And generally, if the prosecution drop charges, you're free and clear. They're not going to come again because they know that you're not afraid to pull this card. Now, when to use it? A motion to preclude grand jury action is strategically employed. You do it when you have strong evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. So I'm going to read that one more time because there's so many people that experience prosecutorial misconduct but refuse or don't know how to go about getting the evidence of the prosecutorial misconduct. And when you're doing that, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And in doing so, you must be able to actually point to the thing that they've done wrong and then present it. This is Exhibit A of this prosecutorial malfeasance. Now, we can go into the context of evidence was illegally obtained, making it used before a grand jury unconstitutional. Again, these are most common on stops and searches, or searches and seizures, when you're on the side of a road during a traffic stop. Because again, police officers do not know how to do their job properly, and most of them will not go get a warrant or don't know that they're supposed to do it when they don't have consent because they don't understand exigent circumstances. Now, we also have instances of where the grand jury process is being abused. Repeated convening without cause. Where we're at? 7. That's grand jury abuse because you just need to not be wrong so bad that you keep convening them until you get the decision that you want, which is why they can indict a paperclip. It's just another piece of paper that you get to challenge. Now, the last one will be you want to challenge the scope of evidence being presented to the jury to prevent prejudicial framing. Now, I'm going to do another show later on, but it goes into mindset because it goes into how much of a psychological game this is. And yes, I use the word game because it's about here, not about law. If they can control your mental, they can control your body. Always understand that. It's typically used early in a case before charges solidify because once an indictment is issued, it is much harder to challenge grand jury action without switching to post-indictment motions. Always understand that. Once it goes past the grand jury and you are indicted, it becomes a different ball game. Probably a ball game you're more familiar with. However, it may be a game that you shouldn't even be playing. That's the point of this. Now, the success rate and the likelihood, like I spoke about, historically, the motion to preclude grand jury actions is somewhere between 10 to 15%, depending on jurisdiction and strength of constitutional or procedural violations. Now, this is why I go through and do bad cop. And I'm actually have you guys do the same thing. If you're seeing bad cops that are mishandling evidence, that are not following the rules of policing, you should actually just post them in my community if you can, so we can all share, and that way we don't have to worry about them putting together a Brady list. We actually have one, and we use that to our advantage, because going through these and making sure that the constitutional violations are placed at a minimum, we must be willing to do something to place them at a minimum. Now, courts give broad deference to grand juries. Prosecutors have wide latitude to present evidence, which is why they don't want defense there, because they don't want anybody challenging evidence. And when you have a wide latitude in presenting evidence that may or may not have any relevance to the case to indict someone, this is a problem because, again, it shows the system is not about truth. It's about who can tell the best story. And then last, strong documented violations increase your odds significantly. The Fourth Amendment illegal searches or clear abuse of process. These are the things that win this motion. So always keep that in mind. Now, the benefits of using it. It stops or delays the indictment process. It prevents immediate escalation of charges and gives the defense time to build a strategy. Highlights prosecutorial misconduct, because even if unsuccessful, filing the motion puts pressure on prosecutors and may influence plea negotiation or future grand jury presentations, or the prosecutor will probably drop charges if they don't believe, even after indictment, they can get a conviction, and because they see that you are not scared. Now, this also protects constitutional rights, reinforces 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment protections before an indictment occurs. Strategic leverage. This is always one of the things I want to talk about. Sending a message to the prosecution. The defense is willing to aggressively challenge procedural abuses. Challenge. And, like I said, it can lead to a dismissal. Goodness. It can completely stop the case from ever reaching the indictment. So now, in summary, use it early. File before grand jury proceedings. Focus on clear legal violation, illegal evidence, abuse of process, improper instructions to grand jury, civil rights violations. All of these things fall under there. Prepare for low success. Don't, again, just like I talked about the I went completely blank. Pretrial, one of your pretrial hearings. Your preliminary hearing. You're going to lose it 99% of the time. because that's how it's designed. You're going to lose the motion to preclude grand jury action. You're going to lose it 85 to 90% of the time. It's not the end of the world. However, you are sending a clear message. You getting ready to fight. Are you ready for this fight? Because I am here. That is one thing you want to do it. Now, leverage. Even a denied motion can pressure the prosecution and limit outreach that they're attempting to do. And that, in most cases, is more valuable than most people will ever know. So, let's bring all this together. The motion to preclude grand jury action is not your everyday motion. It's aggressive, it's strategic, and it's designed to assert your rights before the system even has a chance to move against you. Remember, the grand jury has a tremendous power, and courts historically defer to prosecutors. But that doesn't mean the process is untouchable, because always remember, for every action, there is a counter. This is one of those counters. And when constitutional rights are at stake, or when there's clear prosecutorial misconduct, this motion can stop the grand jury in its tracks. Even if the odds of winning are modest, filing the motion to preclude grand jury action serves multiple purposes. It buys time. It signals to the prosecutor that you are vigilant. It protects your rights, and it protects you from being blindsided by evidence obtained illegally or presented unfairly. And at worst, it forces the government to be more careful. At best, it can completely halt the indictment process and reshape the case before it even starts. Now, the takeaway is simple. Early, proactive defense is powerful, and waiting until after the indictment often makes the playing catch up worse, because you're now defending something that could have been taken care of previous. Now, but by the understanding and deploying motions like this, you assert control, you protect your rights, and the leverage the law in a way that can change the outcome. If you take one thing away from today, it's this. In criminal justice system, the best defense isn't just reacting. It's acting first and acting smart. That's how you leverage the playing field. And that's how you turn the system into your advantage. And thank you for watching. If you found this information valuable, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. I'm going to continue breaking down the strategies, the motions, and the legal tools that can come make the difference between defeat and victory, because all I do is win, and no, I'm not DJ Khaled. Until next time, remember, law is complex, the stakes are high, but being an informed, aggressive defender always has the upper hand. Law is a tool, the application is the journey. Now, I'll see you guys in a little bit, because I'm getting ready to go eat.